Now I have found that when I'm turning a very light colored pen blank like this, that the residue from the bushing will get into the ends. In other words, it's picked up by the sandpaper and then it's rubbed into the pen blank. And I find though that if I rub the ends like this, sort of wipe it out using a fresh piece of sandpaper for each wipe, it seems to help. Not always, not perfectly, but it helps. Now I think I can get a little closer to the bushings than this, so I'm going to take the 400 grit and I'm going to do this all again. After all, this is all about how thin can we turn. Well, I've gone right down to the bushing now on both ends, and I believe that in some places in the middle it may even be slightly less. But I think that's as thin as I'm going to go. Now I was wondering, short of measuring them, how could I show that the ends were actually larger in diameter than the center? And then I thought, well, I'll lay them on my straight edge and you'll be able to see the light underneath. And then I thought, hey, easier way, just stand them side by side. So here we go, touching at the top, touching at the bottom, but nothing in the middle. Now if you're any good at being able to measure in your mind's eye, just sort of visualize and you can see that wood is only about twice as thick as the brass tube. That means in the center of the blank, it's maybe only as thick as the brass tube. That means it's very fragile, and I've got an idea for strengthening it. The other day a friend was over for coffee and he brought with him this length of, it feels like nylon, but I forget what he called it. And the idea is, CA glue won't stick to it. So, yeah, I should be able to turn down a fairly large bushing if I have to. I'm going to just make a little cone-shaped bushing. I'm going to make it a little different than the way I've seen it done on YouTube though. I'm going to try and turn a little tenon on the end. And the reason for that is so that I can stick the tenon up in this Morse taper part of the mandrel. It's just a thought. It may not work. I do a lot of stuff that doesn't work, but it's fun trying anyway. So anyway, here we go. Let's see what we can do with this. Now the through hole on this is about an inch or a smidgen bigger, so something like this easily fits. Now this little piece of plastic is not dead straight. I suppose I could heat it up and straighten it out. Okay, let's get a bit in there and get the end squared off. I don't know if this dust collector is going to help much with this or not. And I've never done anything exactly like this before either. However, this is extremely soft, and this sharp cutter should just go through it like butter. I've got my scraper shimmed up now so that it comes about right in the center line here. And the idea is when I go like this, I should be able to inch it in, or maybe thousandths of an inch it in rather, and just sort of slice this off until it's a cone shape. Here again, I've never done this before, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. Well, I I think I'm going to have to readjust here because it's not very pointy, if you know what I mean. So I think if I come in more like this, maybe that will be better. Let's try it again. Yeah. Now this little parting tool, or parting cutter, don't know what you call it for a metal lathe, but anyway, it's like a parting tool. It's not exactly the right size for this lathe. It's one of the cutters that was given to me by a friend of mine, and he was a master machinist and he had extra cutters and what have you. So he gave me this and a bunch of other stuff. But I've got it adjusted so it's more or less going to come to the center of this piece of nylon here. But it might not be exactly right. So when I get close, rather than accidentally have it go shooting into the dust collector, I'm going to shut the dust collector off. In fact, I don't think I need to have it on at all. Well, I'll have it on for a little bit and see what happens here. Okay, like I said, the cutter is not exactly the right size for this. I should have had it just a smidgen higher. Well, that's okay. I can cut that off with a little tiny saw. Well, it's not holding by much. Okay, now what I plan to do is to turn the tenon on here. I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to do here now. I'll make two just like this. Wonder if maybe this should have been a little bit even more cone shaped, more of a 45-degree angle. Oh, that should be okay. Now this is where things can actually get dangerous. And by that I mean when I'm running the bit, or the cutter rather, in this way, I want it to go almost to the chuck. But of course, naturally, I don't want it to touch the chuck. So I can't use the power feed because on this lathe, the power feed only goes this way, unfortunately. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to run the cutter in a little bit and then bring it back out this way slowly by hand. On this it'll work. I wouldn't try that on steel. However, on this soft stuff it'll work. And I was thinking now, how can I make it so that it will automatically stop? Okay, like you notice it stops there all by itself. Well, let me show you what I did. Now, as it turns out, this mag switch is exactly the right height if you lay it on its side, and it goes like that. Bonus. Okay, now before I get too carried away and make that diameter too small, what I want is for it to fit in here very snugly. So I guess in other words, it should be just slightly bigger than that. See if I can do it. Okay now, all I have to do is make another one exactly like it to stuff into the mandrel saber, and then tomorrow we can see about CA glue finish. Never done it before. Looking forward to trying it. Hope it's not going to be a big fiasco.